Hello, and you're all very welcome along to another episode of the Gaelic Statsman podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Hurley. And yes, it is All Ireland Hurling Final week. Myself and Aaron Prendergast here from Gaelic Games Fan TV cannot wait for this weekend. It's Cork against Clare. It's the big game, obviously, and it's going to be a sellout. Like, tickets was an issue this week. I will say I am going to the game, so I am delighted. I will find some way into Croke Park anyway, and I don't know actually where I'll be in the stadium, but look, it's going to be an absolute brilliant game wherever it is. Like Croke Park, it's a great view everywhere in the place that you are. But yeah, it's going to be a magnificent game. But we are going to preview the hurling final as well as the LGFA Semi Finals, which are happening on Saturday in O'Connor Park, Tullamore as well. And just to shout out to our sponsors before we begin, Capture Athletics. If you want the best gear around, check them out if you haven't already. So yes, Aaron, it is All Ireland Hurling Final week. It seems like a short time ago that the hurling championship started around mid-April, but now we're here, All Ireland Hurling Final, Cork against Clare. I don't think many people, including yourself or myself, would have predicted that this would be the final pairing that we'll have in July.
Yeah, cheers, Matthew, once again for having me on. Yeah, it is mad. It is crazy, all right, yeah. Like, I think at the start of the year, I think some people could have predicted Clare to get to the final. I always thought Cork were a bit of a dark horse and maybe they could do something, but I never actually thought they'd go and beat Limerick twice, and be the ones to end their hopes for 5 in a row. So, yeah, it is kind of incredible to think how far Cork have come in the last sort of, 6-7 weeks, from essentially being a couple of minutes from going out the first time around against Limerick, coming back, winning that game, going obviously on an incredible run en route to the final. And yeah, like Clare obviously were the last team to beat them. Obviously, that was earlier on in the Munster Championship. And Clare have been a little bit unusual at times this year. They definitely at times haven't been at their best. They've shown patches of brilliance, I think, in games, but they've also shown patches of not their usual selves. But I think like Cork and Clare, obviously the 2013 final and everything else, I think everyone knows how good of a final this has the potential to be. And the fact that Limerick aren't in it as well. Like, I think in previous years, you were always looking at Limerick as favourites, and everyone was saying, right, Limerick, they're going to be the team to stop. In this final, I don't really know what the bookies' odds are. Maybe Cork might be slight favourites given they've beaten Limerick, but I think it's very, very even, and I do think it could go either way. And like, I do think extra time could very well be on the agenda here, possibly even a replay, to be honest with you, because I do think there's very little between these two teams, and I think with the fact there's so much on the line, I think it's what makes it so fascinating.
Exactly. So it's going to be a really, really good final. Renee, commenting here, or first commented to the live stream tonight. Were you lucky enough to get the gold dust match? I was. Again, like a friend of mine, obviously got a ticket for me. I'm going into the ground, and obviously I entered a load of competitions before this week, which will close about Thursday or Friday. So if by some chance I do get tickets, obviously I don't know what to do with them, maybe give them to family members or whatever. But yeah, I have got my ticket for the final, and I'm absolutely thrilled to go, obviously. And to be honest, even if I didn't get the ticket, like hanging around Dublin, Aaron, wouldn't be too bad, would it? Like hanging around the pubs or All Ireland final weekend.
Yeah, no, I've done it numerous times before, like when I haven't been able to get tickets for Dublin finals. And if, to be fair, I haven't been hugely looking for tickets, to be fair, just because I know how hard it's going to be to get tickets. But if I don't get a ticket either, which probably is most likely going to happen, then yeah, I'll probably just watch it somewhere busy or somewhere lively and soak in the atmosphere and take everything in. Because yeah, I think it's going to be such a huge final. There's going to be a huge amount of Clare fans obviously coming to Dublin, huge amount of Cork fans coming to Dublin as well. And I think the entirety of the county is going to be completely packed out. And look, it's great because it's going to happen in back-to-back weeks. I think both All Ireland finals and both hurling and football, I think, are very similar in the sense that we're going to get a new champion. Like obviously Clare won it in 2013. That's still 11 years ago. When you look at the 4 teams that are in the All Ireland finals in both football hurling, like Clare, the only team that won an All Ireland in the previous decade. Obviously, no one's won it in this decade. You'd have to go back to the 2000s, when Cork, obviously early 2000s, when Cork last won one. Same with Galway, obviously same with Armagh, 2005 for Cork, 2003, I think, for Armagh. So I think both finals are going to be hugely, hugely exciting, hugely entertaining, and obviously previewing the hurling final this week. yeah, like I can't wait for it, really.
Exactly. So it's going to be a magnificent final to preview, and we will get into it in just a sec. Looking at the odds, actually, that you asked there, Aaron, I looked at Paddy Power there. Obviously, I am strongly against gambling, so please just gamble responsibly if you are planning to do so. But look at the odds just to have a peek at it. Cork are 8-11, draws 8-1, and Clare 6-4. That's according to Paddy Power. But obviously, I'll re-emphasise, bet responsibly if you are betting at all. Denise is coming in with a comment here. Will be a brilliant buzz on Sunday. I'll enjoy it at home. You're right to do so, Denise. It'll be absolutely buzzing in Dublin, and it'll be hard to get car parking, I suppose. So maybe home is probably the best place to watch the final in many ways. But we will get on to, obviously, this game, the All Ireland Senior Hurling Championship Final, Cork against Clare, Croke Park, 3:30 on Sunday, live on RT2 and BBC2 Northern Ireland. If anybody didn't get the golden ticket that they were wishing for this game, it is shown live on free to air, which is brilliant to see as well. Where do you start with this, Aaron? Like it's kind of a pairing that nobody expected at the start of the season. I was looking back at my predictions in the hurling. I predicted Clare to get to the final. I predicted them to beat Kilkenny at the start of the year. Many people probably did as well. But I said Cork would be dark horses, like yourself. I predicted Cork to be dark horses. I never thought the Cork, even as a staunch Cork supporter, that we'd be down Jones's road in the All Ireland final after beating Limerick, not just once, but twice. I didn't believe that we'd beat Limerick the first time in Barky Keeve, but to beat them twice in 1 year. It's almost like the name is on the trophy for Cork, but Clare have won 4 out of the last 5 meetings against the Rebels in previous meetings. So this game is honestly so tough to call.
It is, yeah. Like there's so much to it. There really, really is, in terms of are Cork going to play with the same energy, intensity that they obviously played with against Limerick, the way they ran at Limerick. I think they had a real vendetta. It was like a chip on their shoulders when they played Limerick. And to be fair, like Limerick left so much space from Patrick Collins' puck outs. Like I think Limerick didn't adapt, and we know this about how John Coyley and Paul Kinnerk like to set their teams up. They like to make changes during the game. They'll make little tweaks, and they obviously like to let their players try and figure it out before they obviously go and do so. I don't think Clare will make the same mistakes. I think they'll have a massive plan, most certainly, for Patrick Collins' puck out. But when you look at how Adam Hogan dominated Owen Cody in the second half, like he was winning every ball that was coming in there time and time again. Like he's the perfect man again for those puck outs, or for any ball that's going in and around to Brian Hayes or whoever it is, maybe that Adam Hogan picks up. We'll wait and see. Maybe it'll be Pat Horgan. You'll know better than me. But I think that's going to be such a fascinating battle as well. And obviously we'll go through the matchups. But yeah, there's so much that goes into it as well. Like Clare, we probably haven't seen the best of Tony Kelly. Like this is, Tony Kelly maybe coming to the end of his time. Maybe Patrick Horgan's coming to the end of his time as well. Realistically, you feel like this might be the last chance at All Ireland for Horgan or for Tony Kelly. Not that they, won't be thereabouts again next year, but will they actually play again next year? It's very, very hard to know. You've got Shane O'Donnell potentially coming to the, there's been rumors about him retiring. And yeah, I just hope we get both teams at their best, and it's a brilliant, brilliant game. Because if Clare play how they played in the first half in this game versus Cork, they'll get absolutely blown away. But I think the way they turned it around in the second half, they have to start this game strong and with confidence. So, yeah, it's unbelievable. And speaking of predictions and everything else, like at the start of the year, I predicted Limerick to beat Cork in the semi-finals, and I predicted Clare to beat Kilkenny. Like I wasn't far off, but to be fair to Cork, like they've come, they've come on leaps and bounds, and yeah, it's so hard to call. Like
it is definitely. I predicted the exact same as you. I predicted obviously Limerick to win and Clare to win, and Limerick to win the All Ireland after that, but. Great minds think alike, as they say, but yeah, Limerick are out. It is Cork and Clare in the All Ireland final, and we are going to dissect all of that in a bit. ASOS is commenting here, Clare will win the All Ireland. Serious confidence there. So we'll have to see what happens with Clare. Like Clare could easily shock Cork. We'll have to see about that. But looking at the scores and the journey to the final, so we'll go team by team. So we'll start off with Cork as soon as there's another comment coming in here as well. Aces again. Cork 99 Jubilee team on Sunday before the All Ireland Hurling Final.
Yeah.
Before we get into the scores, Aaron, is that an indication that it could be going to the Rebels?
It could be, but we've seen these Jubilee teams before as well, and sometimes it doesn't always translate. But correct me if I'm wrong. I think Clare's Clare's 95 Jubilee team was before the 2013 final, or have I got that wrong? I might have, because that's 25 years.
2013.
2013.
25 years before 2013. I'm trying to calculate now. It was 1988.
That was it. Maybe was it the 98 team? Maybe, I think. Yeah, there was something like that. To be fair, I might be wrong on that now. To be fair, that just thought came into my head as you said that. But I seen the lads all getting fitted for suits as well. Seen Patrick Horgan getting fitted for suits and all the rest. So yeah, look, could it be a good omen? Who knows?
Exactly. So, and like even the great Simply suits, designing those suits obviously, and fitting them for the Cork players for the hotel afterwards, and things like that, which is absolutely brilliant to see. We'll start off with Cork and their journey and scores to the final. So they started off with 2 losses in a row against Waterford, obviously by 225 to 125. They lost against Clare by 326 to 324. Beat Limerick in that miraculous game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, 328 to 326. Beat Tipperary in Semple Stadium 430 to 121. Beat Offaly 425 to 319. Then beat Dublin 26 points to 21. And that win over Limerick in the semi-final again, 128 to 29 points. They've averaged a score of 227 per game and conceded an average of 223. And you can see for the top scorers here, Patrick Horgan on 5 goals and 62 points. And I think he needs to get 8 points exactly to overtake Lee Chin as top scorer in this year's championship. So not only will he be the top scorer overall in hurling history, obviously championship history, he might overtake TJ Reid this weekend, but he could be the All Ireland top scorer for this season alone. So Patrick Horgan's had an incredible campaign, even at his age. Alan Connolly has 4 goals and 12 points. Darragh Fitzgibbon 22 points. Shane Barr 216. You have others there as well, like Declan Dawson, Seamus Harvey, Brian Hayes, who scored that crucial goal against Limerick, all in that list as well. But even look at the list there and look at scores for Cork. Like, standouts have been, like, a lot of people pointed towards Darragh Fitzgibbon in midfield, 22 points from play. They've been saying up until the lead up to this game that Darragh Fitzgibbon and Shane O'Donnell have been the 2 players of the year. Would you actually agree with that, or would you throw someone else into that?
Yeah, no, I think they've been definitely in the mix as well. You said Shane O'Donnell. Who was the other one? Sorry,
Darragh Fitzgibbon.
I'd put them 2. I think they're definitely in the conversation. I think Brian Hayes as well, to be fair, has been phenomenal for Cork. Like he was outstanding, obviously in the semi-finals. Maybe during the Munster round robin, maybe he wasn't at the heights of a Darragh Fitzgibbon. Alan Connolly, maybe earlier in the year, would have been in that mix. Maybe not so much more now. He's probably gone a little bit more quiet in the last few games, especially around the Dublin and Offaly game. But yeah, like Shane O'Donnell's been outstanding. Obviously points and goals that he's been getting, maybe not huge amounts, but I think it's more his work and what he's doing. He's dragging defenders left, right, and centre, making them dizzy, and then also setting people up, setting big players up for big chances. And he's been the one offloading the ball to Peter Duggan, to Mark Rogers, running over the shoulder. So yeah, I'd probably put them 2 as the front runners. I mean, there's so many players in the conversation. Like Pat Collins could be in the conversation for hurler of the year, I think, as well, to be honest with you. So there's a lot of players that I think are on the edge that could maybe get hurler of the year. So it's just, I think a lot will depend obviously on this final.
Exactly. So, and you look at some of the star performers there for Cork. I mentioned Darragh Fitzgibbon there as a nominee for Player of the Year. Shane Barr from centre forward has been outstanding as well. And considering he didn't really have a starting role really in the team, to put him into centre forward is just a brilliant move by Pat Ryan, I'd imagine as well. Alan Connolly, Brian Hayes, as you mentioned there, Declan Dalton's had an amazing year. And like this Cork team, it is well documented. The fans will travel from Cork. They will travel from Clare as well. But you've seen the noise that the Cork fans brought to Croke Park at the game against Limerick, and the game against Limerick at Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and the game at Semple Stadium against Tipperary as well. Like, could that be a factor in the game, do you think, that the Cork fans will get behind their team in this one? Because it is well documented, along with the Armagh footballers, the Dublin footballers there as well. Cork are recognised as probably one of the best hurling fan bases in the country. So could that drive the victory on Sunday as well?
Yeah, I think it could. I think obviously the big issue, and maybe we'll discuss it like with the breakdown of tickets and everything else, is will you get as much Cork fans in there as you'll want? So I'm not entirely sure. There could be a bit more of a split just with clubs and everything else. And obviously how ticket allocation works for All Ireland finals, it's hard to know, but I'm sure there will be somehow more Cork fans in there. They'll, like yourself, obviously they'll find a way of getting tickets from somewhere, and be sitting somewhere, obviously. So yeah, I think it is huge because the Cork fans have been hugely vocal. I think we've saw it all year long. I think Cork is almost, especially hurling wise, it's been a sleeping giant for the last 20 years. You've had a few moments here and there, obviously getting to the final in 13, getting to the final in 21, couple of Munsters along the way. But generally speaking, Cork have not, they just haven't quite, it just hasn't quite happened. And I feel like this year, a lot of fans have got on board. Maybe some bandwagoner fans, I'm not entirely sure, but I think all sorts of supporters have got on board, and they've all created what has been a real sort of eruption around Cork hurling. And we saw that as well in the semi-finals with the fans. And it could be huge. It definitely could make a difference if there is more Cork fans there than Clare fans, or if they are more vocal than Clare fans. But to be fair, Clare supporters are brilliant as well. Like, they bring great numbers, and that's why it's so hard to get a ticket for this final. Like, I don't know if any Kilkenny fans will be watching this, but if Kilkenny were in the final, I'd be saying it'll probably be 80 to 90% Cork fans there. But Clare fans, to be fair, do have a great support. And although yous obviously haven't won an All Ireland in 20 years, you have been in more All Ireland finals in that time period than Clare. So it is still a rarity for Clare in sort of the last 20 years to get to All Ireland finals. So yeah, like, just thinking about it, it's just going to be some occasion. It really is.
The comments are rolling in here. First comment here from Stockroom team. Wait till you hear the banner roar, Matthew. Yeah, I'm sure it will be vocal in Croke Park, and we will get to hear it as well. Like, Clare are basic supporters. As shown, I remember the Cork game last year in Cusack Park, Dermot Ryan's point. Clare were amazing fans that day, so they will bring the noise. Cork will bring the noise, which is why both of us and the entire country are looking forward to this final as well. Another comment in here from Stockroom team. Collins is much improved, but he's hardly in line for hurler of the year. Quaid never won it, and he's been pivotal for Limerick. So I'd like to get you to answer that, Aaron. Like, to be fair, Nicky Quaid's been outstanding in the last few years. So yeah. Would it be a bit unfair if Collins won it and Quaid didn't over the last 2 seasons?
Yeah, maybe. And Quaid, to be fair, has been robbed of a few All-Stars as well, hasn't he? Like, he's probably deserved to get a few All-Stars in recent years and hasn't gotten it. Like, I can't remember the last time a goalkeeper won hurler of the year. If it's ever happened, I'm sure maybe it has. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, I think, look, I think the difference really, though, is to be fair to Nicky Quaid, I think Nicky Quaid makes the hard things look simple. And I think that's sometimes why he hasn't gotten All-Stars, and he hasn't, his puck outs are so simple. They look so simple, even though they're not. He makes hard saves look easy. I think Pat Collins, he's made some extraordinary saves, like in the semi-finals, as we saw against Limerick. Some saves that, putting his body on the line in the way that he did. His puck outs have been incredible as well. Look, he probably won't win hurler of the year, but I think an All-Star, he's definitely the front runner for me. Maybe if Eibhear Quilligan has an unbelievable game again, he might get in there. But I think Quilligan has made a few mistakes, like most notably, obviously, in the semi-finals versus Kilkenny. So I would put Collins as the front runner for an All-Star. Hurler of the year, to be fair, might be a bit of a stretch, but All-Star, I think, definitely.
Exactly. So Denise is saying, popping in with hurler of the year discussion right now, I think Shane O'Donnell is the bookies' favourite, and I think he is as well. Yeah. But to be here, like, Darragh Fitzgibbon has scored more for play for midfield than Shane O'Donnell. So yeah, maybe it's not about scoring particularly, but like, if you're going by that, like, Darragh Fitzgibbon probably deserves it, but we'll have to see how it all plays out, definitely. Stockroom team commenting here, it's rare for a defender to win hurler of the year, never mind a goalkeeper. Yeah, true. Very true. Like, I went for a Landis shout at the start of the year. I said Will O'Donoghue would be player of the year. I don't know. To be honest, like, Will O'Donoghue is an outstanding player, and it's somebody commented on that TikTok, for example, that if Will O'Donoghue won hurler of the year, the sport is finished. But when you look at soccer, Rodri's going to win the Ballon d'Or. And he's almost similar to a player to Will O'Donoghue, or similar defensive player. So it wouldn't finish the sport, no doubt about it. Hurling 1, 2, 3, 4 says Ger Cunningham won it in 1986. So there you go, as a goalkeeper. So 1986 was the last time a goalkeeper won it. A big comment in here from Hurling 1, 2, 3, 4 as well, if I can get it up. Cork have to win it, in my opinion, after beating Limerick twice. The luck so far, which you need, Kingston's run and Hoggy's penalty, the Clare 65, Collins save, etc. Quaid in 2018. Is it written in the stars, Matthew? It might be. It might be written in the stars that Cork win the All-Ireland. But for all those events to happen, Aaron, and for Cork not to win the All-Ireland, wouldn't that be a big gut-wrenching for Pat Ryan's team? Obviously not take it away from Clare, but for Cork to beat Limerick twice, to get all the stuff that going forward of this season, to get in this position in the first place, do you think it's written to the stars that Cork win the All-Ireland, given all that?
I don't think anything's ever really written in the stars. I think sometimes it might look that way. You might think it and everything else. Look, I think they have had a lot of the big moments go their way, and I'm not necessarily talking about refereeing decisions around like that. I'm more talking about they've stood up in big moments. They've got themselves over the line. Like, they've 100% deserved to be where they are. Like, they've beaten Limerick twice. Like, maybe if certain things didn't happen, if Waterford get that point late on against Clare, if that 65 isn't given, then Cork probably wouldn't be here. It's kind of incredible to think how it's all panned out. If Waterford had to beat Tipperary, Cork probably wouldn't have been here. So they've probably had a little bit of luck with other results and everything else, but like they've more than deserved it with how they've turned it around, the hurling that they've played, the standard that they've played at as well, the brilliance of Fitzgibbon, the brilliance of Brian Hayes, Owen and Rob Downey have obviously been outstanding in defence as well. And I think they more than deserve it. I think, look, for Clare, maybe they might be thinking it's written in the stars as well. They've finally beaten Kilkenny. They've finally beaten the Voodoo. I think it would hurt Cork more, I think, if they lost this, just given the fact they beat Limerick twice. And imagine Clare winning the All-Ireland, having lost to Limerick twice in the same year, be a little bit unusual. But look, this is how it works. This is how sport works. This is how hurling works sometimes. And everyone's talking about Cork. There's so much hype around Cork. It probably would be in line with this year's championship for Clare to go and win it, to be honest with you, because that's what seems to be happening this year. Like, what we think is going to happen doesn't happen. So I probably would back Cork slightly, but I think Clare are certainly in it. And one thing I would say about Clare is that they do have big game players, probably more big game players who've been there, not necessarily won All Irelands or anything like that, but they have players that have been around, I think, longer than the majority of the Cork team. When you look at Brian Hayes, who's obviously a young player, Owen and Rob Downey as well. Like, Clare probably are a bit more seasoned, a bit more veteran. And probably for me to have the better overall starting 15. They just haven't performed as well as they can perform. So it's so hard. Like, it's one thing I'm very certain of. It's going to be a point or two either way, I think.
He's coming in with a comment here, moving swiftly on to Clare as well. Cork went to the match as favourites. Brian Lohan will love that. And to be honest, I think he would as well. I really think he would. Like, he loves going in under the radar, loves causing a shock here or there. But we will look at Clare's journey to the final and their scores to this All-Ireland final. They lost to Limerick first day out, 315 to 118. Beat Cork by 326 to 324 in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, may I add as well. Beat Waterford 421 to 226. Beat Tipperary 124 to 24 points. Lost to Limerick again 126 to 120. Beat Wexford 228 to 119, and they beat Kilkenny in the semi-final by 24 points to 216. They've averaged a score 222 per game and conceded an average of 221 per game. That's a point winning margin on average, Aaron, which is quite concerning from a Clare point of view. Look, going into this final in many ways. The scores here: Aidan McCarthy 154, Mark Rogers 224, David Fitzgerald, another nominee for Player of the Year in my opinion, has been absolutely excellent with 2 goals and 18 points from midfield. Tony Kelly 116, Shane O'Donnell 112, you've David Reedy there, Dermot Ryan, Peter Duggan, Ian Galvin, all of the list as well. So, like, Clare have had their performance this season, but is it fair to argue that Clare have performed at a lower level this year than in previous seasons, and they've still got to the final? But like, against Kilkenny, they were just the better team on the day. But in Munster, they lost to Limerick twice. They did win their other 3 games, but against Waterford, as we mentioned before, was very, very tight getting over the line. Or is it kind of a consideration as well the Clare have improved as the championship has gone on. Yes, in Munster, they were very, very poor. Obviously, lost to Limerick in that Munster final. We were questioning where this team goes. Then in the quarterfinal, they hammer Wexford. Look, Wexford are a good team, and they have Lee Sheen, Rory O'Connor, Conor McDonald, all day. But at the same time, yes, Wexford had a guy sent off, but Clare still had to beat what was in front of them. And against Kilkenny, I thought their shooting accuracy, especially in the second half when they upped it, was very, very good. So is there an argument that Clare have improved in the championship as it's gone on, and they're going into this final in a good light?
Yeah, I think the issue maybe with Clare is that they haven't done it for a full 70 minutes, or they haven't, like, I think Cork were outstanding for the full 70 against Limerick. They might have maybe faded a little bit towards the final 10, but I think they've been outstanding. And I think Cork's overall performances, when you look at what they've given, have been very, very good. I think for Clare, it's just been a bit patchy at times. They in a lot of games, they haven't put teams away when they should have. They've allowed teams back into matches a lot of the time. Obviously we saw that against Limerick on the opening day. We saw a little bit against Cork, even when they had an extra man. Like, that game finished as a 2-point game, but Clare were, I think, 5 or 6 up at one point. Against Waterford, they allowed them back into it. And then against Kilkenny, it was obviously the opposite, where they started really, really poor, and they should have been dead and buried. Like, let's be honest, Kilkenny had so many chances, goal chances, and if it wasn't for Eibhear Quilligan, Kilkenny could have been 10, 12, maybe 15 up at half time. So I think for Clare, like, they just haven't produced a really well-rounded 70-minute performance. Like, you're always going to have minutes and patches in games where it goes wrong, but I think Clare have had a lot of bad quarters or bad halves in matches. But look, they've still dug themselves deep. They've still found a way to get over the line, which they haven't done in previous years. You'd argue they were playing better hurling last year than this year, but here they are in the final, and look, they won't fear Cork. Like, I think if they were playing Limerick, there might be that thing of, they just, maybe there's a mental thing there. Like, it looked a little bit like there might have been a mental thing against them in the final of the Munster Championship, but that definitely isn't there against Cork. And yeah, I think Brian Lohan will be definitely loving the fact that Cork are the favourites. They're the bookies' favourites. Everyone's talking about Cork. There's so much hype around Cork. Clare will absolutely love to go there and silence the doubters. And, it wouldn't surprise me if they did do it.
Another comment in here from Stockroom Team. It would be concerning, that is the average winning margin. It would be concerning if we had the full complement this year, but we only just got Taylor back, and Tony Kelly is only getting back to form now, which is a good point, and we might discuss that in a bit as well. The start is huge. If Cork race into a lead, they would be very hard to reel back in. So what do you think about that point, actually, about Clare getting all their players back? Like, Tony Kelly's back to full fitness. Like, Brian Taylor came in against Kilkenny and made a huge difference coming onto the pitch. But other players have stepped up, like David Fitzgerald's been outstanding this season. Shane O'Donnell's in Player of the Year form. Adam Hogan, still at a young age, getting turnover after turnover in the semi-final, 8 overall. Eibhear Quilligan performed brilliantly in the first half when Clare were under the cosh. So is that kind of a good mix, that the fringe players are stepping up to the big time, and then you have the likes of Tony Kelly and Ryan Taylor coming back into form? Like, Tony Kelly scored 3 points from play in the semi-final, which, to be fair, has gone in under the radar because of how good Cork were. And maybe Clare, with the likes of Adam Hogan and David Fitzgerald playing well, Shane O'Donnell playing well, Ryan Taylor coming back onto the pitch, maybe it was underestimated a small bit how good Tony Kelly was against Kilkenny in that semi-final, which indicates that he is getting back to his full best.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's gradually gotten better game on game. Again, it's just we saw flashes of it. We saw moments. It probably just hasn't been the vintage Tony Kelly of a couple of years ago. And look, that's probably normal with age, with injuries and everything else. And he's obviously, I think he went for an operation a couple of years ago as well, I think on his back or something like that. So there's been a lot of injury problems there with Tony Kelly, and he is slowly coming more and more back to his best, in fairness. And Ryan Taylor back was huge. I think he was a huge difference maker in the semi-final. The form of Adam Hogan as well. Mark Rogers has been patchy in games. Like, he was very, very good, I thought, in the final 20 minutes against Limerick in the Munster final, and he was very good in the second half versus Kilkenny, but he was anonymous in the first half. So I think it's just a bit for Clare. It's just about getting their big players to stand up in the big moments, and especially at the start of the game, because as one of the commenters said there as well, like, if they start how they started against Kilkenny, against Cork, like, they'll find themselves too far behind, because there's no way Cork are missing those chances. I mean, you saw Brian Hayes his eyes lit up for that first goal. He should have had a second goal as well. So like Cork will absolutely punish Clare if they leave them the spaces and the chances. And to be fair, that would be a worry from a Clare perspective, because when you do look at the goals they conceded against Limerick, obviously early on in Munster, some of the goals they conceded against Cork, Waterford, and obviously some of the chances they conceded against Kilkenny, that is going to be a worry, I think, for Clare.
Most definitely. Another comment in here from Stockroom Tim. Taylor brings the likes of Tony Kelly and Davy Fitz more to the game. He's been a massive loss, and definitely so. Beast 475 says Tony Kelly's ankle was the problem. And then Rudders is coming in here saying draw and Cork win the replay. We're getting some spicy predictions tonight, Aaron. So great to see, obviously. But even look at some of the stats going into the game. Like I did a kind of compilation of average stats in games for both Clare and Cork. Now, this is all of Cork's games in the championship this season, for Clare not including the Tipperary game, because for some reason it's not put on the RT player, but the less said about that, the better. Look at the averages here from a Cork and Clare point of view. Like Cork have averaged a score of 227, obviously. Clare have averaged a score of 222. The concession rate there is 223 for Cork, 221 for Clare. So Cork have conceded more than Clare, but have a better winning margin than Clare. So maybe that's a concern for Cork, looking at the defensive line there. The number of shots, Cork have had 43 shots in this championship on average. Clare have had 39. Cork have conceded 41 shots on average. Clare have conceded 38. Bear with me, though, it's very hard to read here. Own conversion rate, like Cork have converted on average 67% of their shots when you look at the whole championship this season, which is an absolutely incredible record, to be fair, from the Rebels. In comparison, Clare converted 62% on average in front of the post, and for both teams, the opposition conversion rate, the pressure being applied, is 61%. So pretty even playing field on that standpoint. Interesting enough, the puckouts are the exact same as well. 68% for both of them won, and that's long puckouts included as well. On opposition puckouts won, the amount of puckouts won against the opposition, Cork have won more with 37% compared to Clare's 34%. Turnovers, very similar as well. Clare have only won one turnover rather than lost turnovers, 27 turnovers to 26 on average. Cork is 25 each, so 50% on average per game, which is pretty interesting in its own right. I think this could be a major factor are the fouls. Cork are committing 15 fouls per game. You look at the cards they got, 27 yellow cards this year, 1 black card and 2 red cards. They've won 13 frees as well, but Clare have won 14 frees. They've won more frees and they've conceded less frees. So maybe that's something to talk about as well when we end this and we have into this now with the stats and all that. So do you think that's going to be interesting? Because Aidan McCarthy and Mark Rogers, whoever was in front of the ball for Clare, got 100% of their frees over the bar. You look at the way Cork are conceding frees in the last few games. They conceded 49 shots against Limerick as well. So, like, is there a scope there for Clare to maybe get at Cork and maybe, like, for Pat Ryan, the aim would be in the defensive line to keep their discipline, because you look at it there, 27 yellow cards even, that's a lot for 7 games.
Yeah, it could be. It certainly could be. And Limerick, as we very well know, like their accuracy was way off against Cork. They missed a lot of chances normally that they would be scoring. Clare, obviously in the second half, like accuracy wise, they were brilliant in the first half. To be fair, they were sticking in it, they were keeping themselves in it, shooting wise and everything else. It was more the other end, I think, where things were very much going wrong. But I think it could make a huge impact, in fairness, when they are conceding those big chances. I think the thing about Cork is that I think they've almost, like, they've let the shackles off. I feel like when you've watched Cork hurling a little bit in the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's almost like they've made it overly complicated, and they've overplayed the ball. There's been too much focus on points. They haven't been going for goals. They haven't modernized the way that they've been playing. Whereas it looks like now they're just going for it. They're just running at teams, getting the ball forward, playing with energy, playing with pace. Maybe they're leaving a little bit in behind, but I think they're not worrying too much about the opposition anymore. Like, I think when they played Limerick in 21, they were absolutely terrified once Limerick got going, and their confidence completely dropped. Whereas now they back themselves, and they back themselves in the big moments more often to get over the line. So I think that could be absolutely huge from a Cork perspective. But as you said, they are leaving space in behind, and it is something that they will have to watch. And to be fair, it's why I think this game will be a complete ding dong basketball style game. You know, it'll be back and forth, and yeah, it's going to be incredible. Like,
even look at the conversion rate on average for Cork at 67%. And we see it in the football last week with Donegal. They usually got 69%, 75% against Louth, obviously the quarterfinal. And then against Galway, they just panicked in front of the post. Do you think that could be the same for Cork in the final this Sunday? I know Cork beat Limerick and they'd be more experienced at playing big sides in Croke Park than the Donegal footballers would. But is that kind of something to consider as well, that Cork could drop their level as much as Donegal did last Sunday?
Yeah, it's hard to know, really. Like, I suppose, like, people point to the Offaly game and the Dublin game, maybe where Cork dropped their standards a little bit. But again, there was obviously rumours of a bug in the camp in the Dublin game. I'm not entirely sure how true that was. Maybe it was true. I really don't know. But I do think there was an element of Cork knowing they didn't need to be at 100% in those games. They didn't need to be at 100%. They knew all focus was on Limerick. They knew Limerick were in that semi-final already, having won the Munster Championship, so it wasn't, you know, all focus was towards that. And you saw once the Limerick game came around, they were bang up for it and they went for it. So I don't really think so, to be honest. I think the nerves could have got to them in Croke Park in the semi-finals, and it didn't. Like, despite Limerick missing a few chances here and there, they still nearly won it. There was only 2 points in it, and Cork kept their nerves in that game. So I don't think that'll be a case this time around for Cork. And Clare, to be fair, in the first half, like, they did look very nervous. So it'll be interesting to see how they start this game. But no, I couldn't see the same thing happening to Cork. There might be a bit of nervousness on both teams towards the end of the game or at different moments, just because it's the fact Limerick aren't in the final. Like, it's such a huge opportunity to win an All Ireland. It mightn't come around again anytime soon. So, although I do think, to be fair, both these two will be thereabouts again next year. But it's just, yeah, it's absolutely huge. But I couldn't really see Cork nerves getting the better of them in the same way that happened to Donegal.
A few other comments coming here. I'd say this is the most commented video I've ever got. To be honest, said Daddy's the All Ireland Hurling Final. Obviously, Beast475 says, as a Clare man, I hope we win, because I'm not sure how much longer Lohan will be there. Davy Fitz up next, unfortunately. Then Stockroom Tim is saying, not a chance Davy gets the job again. And then Beast saying, I hope not anyway. Renee is saying here, could be Hoggy's last ever game in a Cork jersey, and we were talking about that earlier as well. Beast is saying in here is, again, I heard Lohan might step down after this, not too sure. Shawnee saying here, what happens if it's a draw? Is there extra time or is it a replay? I think Shawnee, and I'll have to check the match program now on Sunday. I think it's a replay. It'll go to a replay, and then it's extra time penalties once it gets to the replay, like the GA may as well know, because it's the last game of the season. So I'd imagine it's going to go to a replay if it is a draw. And Beast confirms that there it is a draw. And a few other comments in here, bear with me, lads. Stockroom Tim is saying in here, think it's a replay first, then extra time and penalties in the replay if the replay is a draw. Sean is saying, okay, with the replay, and then there's talks about the replay about that. Then Denise is saying here, Clare will take huge courage going in as underdogs. I think that is when they are at their best, and that is definitely a case. Definitely. And Stockroom Team finally says here, 2 games in 13 were fairly different for Clare. Only scored points the first day and got 5 goals in the replay. So obviously a lot was talked about in the 2013 game, and we will talk about this in the head-to-head record now. If I could just take off the comment rather than the head-to-head record. So as you can see there, Cork have a better record overall than Clare in the championship with 40 wins. Clare have had obviously 5 draws between the teams as well. It's 16 wins from a Clare point of view. Clare have won 4 out of the last 5 meetings against Cork, which could prove decisive come Sunday. Like, the last time Cork beat Clare in the championship was 2021. And if you remember that game, Aaron, Tony Kelly nearly got a goal through at the end of that game in the Gaelic grounds. Pack on and saved it. Cork went through, but narrowly so. It's very interesting to look at these stats as well, because before 2013, Clare's last win over Cork was 1998. So Clare didn't have a good record in the 2000s against Cork up to 2013 as well. And even from 2014 to 2018, Clare failed to beat Cork in the championship. But then from 2019 onwards, Cork have won 1 championship game against Clare since then. So is it kind of the changing of the guard, do you think, that Clare have a better record than Cork? Or do you think this weekend could change the complexion of it.
It probably signaled how things have been going for the last couple of years for Cork. Do you know that way? Like, I think Cork had been, like, you obviously couldn't get out of Munster last year. In 2022, obviously you got bet, I think, wasn't it, in the quarterfinals by Galway. So I think it was one of them from a Cork perspective where you had become a side that a lot of teams were beating. You were playing well, you were putting in great results, or putting in great performances, but the results weren't coming. And I think it was almost similar against Clare this year, where no matter what Cork were doing, you felt like they just couldn't buy a win. And then as soon as you started winning and you got that win versus Limerick, it's like the fortunes have changed somewhat. So, yeah, it's probably been a reflection of where Clare have been in the last couple of years in comparison to where Cork have been. Like, Clare, you would say, no doubt, over the last 3-4 years have been arguably the second best, maybe third best team in the country to Kilkenny. And Limerick obviously is number one. Whereas now, Cork have arrived now. Like, the way Cork are playing against Limerick is different to how they played against Clare, even earlier in the year, in my opinion. So, I think Cork are a different animal completely now. But look, that won't phase Clare, because Clare will still have a huge amount of confidence. The fact they beat you once this year in the championship, and obviously beat you in the last couple of years in the championship as well.
Exactly. So Beast is coming in with a comment here. Match, the thing that worries me about Cork is the full back line. They were very good against Limerick, but struggled throughout the year. And definitely looking at the stats there, they could see a lot of shots, and that is concerning. Obviously, the freeze is concerning me from a Cork fans' point of view. Obviously, they could see a lot of freeze. 27 yellow cards is way too much, in my opinion. And Aidan McCarthy and Mark Rogers, whoever's over the ball for Clare, seem to take their chances this year. In the last two games, in particular against Wexford and Kilkenny. Stockroom Tim is saying here, we had a brutal run versus Cork after 13, including 2 successive Munster finals in 17 and 18. Remember those, actually, they were very good games. Much different Clare team, not being consistently in the top 4 in the last 3 years from a Clare point of view. The squad has stayed together, and Beast is adding on here. We scored the most goals we've had in all years for Clare, which is an interesting stat to point towards as well. Now, we'll get onto this section in the chat as well before the predictions, the matchups. Now, who do you think are, like, it's going to be tight? Like Adam Hogan, if he goes on Patrick Horgan, that's a big task for the 19-year-old. He's been absolutely incredible throughout the year, but Hoggy's an experienced player. Would you put Conor Lean on him? The Conor Lean is a decent enough defender, but Adam Hogan's clearly probably a better player than Conor Lean is. So probably you put Adam Hogan on Patrick Horgan. But then Brian Hayes, as you mentioned before, Aaron, he's performed brilliantly as well. So Conor Lean will have a serious job on his hands. Does Conor Cleary go on Anna Connolly? It's going to be an interesting one as well. Would John Conlon take Shane Barrett? Is there a pace issue there? We've seen it in the semi-final. There was a pace issue in the Limerick defence when me and Seamus were discussing Declan Hannon potentially going at Shane Barrett. So we could see that as well. And when you look at the other side of the pitch, like Sean O'Donoghue, who will he go on? Like, will it be Shane O'Donnell? Like, Sean O'Donoghue did an excellent job against Aaron Gallan at stages against Limerick. Like, who does Mark Coleman mark? Like, obviously, Garrod Haig got marked by Kieran Joyce. That was a master stroke by Pat Ryan the last time. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Even the midfield battle, like, would you expect Kieran Joyce to go on David Fitzgerald this time? Because he is named on the programme in midfield. You would say that Darragh Fitzgibbon won't go on David Fitzgerald per se, because both of those midfielders are attacking, maybe cancel each other out. So, like, what do you think of matchups are? And it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's hugely fascinating, as you said. Like, when you're looking at both teams, I think the Adam Hogan one is interesting on Patrick Horgan. Like, I think what Hogan does have, he has the physicality and he has the pace. And Patrick Horgan, to be fair, he does drift a lot more now. Like, I don't think he really stays in his position. I think you do see him drift a little bit more so out to midfield. Could that then drag Adam Hogan away? I'm not entirely sure. Conor Lean, I don't. Yeah, he could potentially go on him as well, which is interesting. But I probably would agree with you. I think Conor Cleary probably goes on Alan Connolly. I think that's the one that probably makes the most sense. Like, you're then looking at McInerney as well. Who does he pick up? Like, across that Cork, like, half forward line. Like, I'd probably put Adam Hogan on Brian Hayes, just because Hayes, like, he has a tremendous amount of pace. His physicality as well, the form that he's in, the goals, obviously, that he's been scoring as well. I think in my opinion, you want your best defender on him. And I think Adam Hogan, as of now, as of form and how he played in the second half against Owen Cody, I think you put him on him. So I think he could be a very good option there as well. Like, you're looking at Jeremy McInerney, like he picked up Adrian Mullen the last day, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and did an excellent job, and Adrian Mullen was completely out of it.
And completely took him out of the game as well. So, like, who does he go on, do you think? Maybe he could go on Shane Barrett.
Would he go on Decky Dalton?
Yeah, given the form he's in. Yeah.
It's an interesting one. It really is. Yeah, could he go on Shane Barrett? Like, Shane Barrett has pace to burn. And David McInerney, while David McInerney wouldn't be necessarily pacey, would he be a better option? Like, Dermot Ryan's more of an attacking wing back. David McInerney's more conservative. So would you say David McInerney and Shane Barrett is a good matchup?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Like, I think David McInerney has the pace, and especially after what he done with Adrian Mullen as well, completely taking him out of the game, given Mullen's form versus Dublin. No, he wasn't long back from injury. But yeah, there's so much to it. You've got Jeremy Ryan there as well. Like, who's he going to pick up? Could that be maybe Declan Dalton? And then, of course, the other way, like, look, the big players like Shane O'Donnell. As you said, is that Sean O'Donoghue who goes on him? I don't know. Like, that Tony Kelly as well. You've got who decides to go on him? Could that be a Rob Downey? It's interesting to see. Like, how would you look at it? Like, in terms of Cork's defense and Clare's forwards, like, there's a lot going on there, isn't there?
There is, and Soccer King makes an interesting comment here. I thought Gillane roasted O'Donoghue, and you might see that from the stats. Like, Gillane scored 10 points, but even in the game, O'Donoghue was grappling with Gillane throughout the whole game. And Gillane is a quality player. So I still think O'Donoghue is one of our best man markers when you look at the strength of him. He's a very colossal defender. So I think he's very good. Like, Owen Downey, would you put him on Shane O'Donnell? Probably not. Shane O'Donnell, both of them have had outstanding years, but just think, would it be a step too far for Owen Downey to go on O'Donnell? The form that O'Donnell's in. You look at the other corner, Niall O'Leary could have a job to do. He's been going about his work under the radar this season. Like, Niall O'Leary, David Reedy, possibly. Or I don't know who Clare would start at 15. Would it be Ryan Taylor starting there? Who goes on Peter Duggan? It's an interesting one as well. Will Tim O'Mahony go on? Will Mark Coleman go on him? Like, Peter, that's an interesting kind of dynamic as well, because Peter Duggan is normally a colossal player, a strength-born player. So I'd fear if Mark Coleman goes on him, he might be blown out. But it could be a similar situation as a Limerick game with Garrett Hagerty. The Kieran Joyce could go on Peter Duggan. It could end up that way, or he could go on David Fitzgerald, who's equally a powerful player. So it's going to be interesting to see this. Mark Rogers, would Robert Downey take him? Like, it's going to be very interesting to see these matchups. But personally, I think like Abe McCarthy's another one. Interesting player, like, very good for the freeze, but excellent for play as well. I'd personally put Sean O'Donoghue on Shane O'Donnell. I don't know, would anybody agree with that, but I just feel like Sean O'Donoghue is a good match for him, given O'Donnell's performance this season. Beast is saying here, Conlon on Barrett. It's an interesting one. It's an interesting one because Conlon is an excellent player and positionally aware. Barrett's a lot pacer than Conlon, and I don't think that's an unpopular opinion there. So it's going to be interesting who John Conlon goes on, or does he drift? It's going to be very interesting to see that. Davy Mack has plenty pace. Soccer Team says that's David McInerney as well. So could he be on Shane Barrett? Could we see David McInerney on Shane Barrett? It's going to be very interesting to see that kind of standpoint. Stockroom Team commenting with another comment here. Clare will have to drop lads back to flood the defence and stop the running game. Good point. I do think that's a good point, because Brian Hayes, Shane Barrett, there's some excellent players in that Cork forward line. Beast is saying here that high ball is into full back line is not a good sight. And then his Stockroom Team finally says here, I'd back our lads up to the high ball before, and I would if they were chasing lads all day long. So it's going to be a very interesting kind of dynamic. But what do you think yourself, Aaron? Do you think O'Donoghue on Shane O'Donnell, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Like, it is such a tough one, because At times, Kilkenny nearly had more than one man around O'Donnell. I think leaving O'Donnell 1v1 or with space to turn and space to move, I think is the wrong option. So you definitely do need another covering defender there. Obviously, you can't leave a man free. You can't leave Mark Rogers free or whatever. Dave Fitzgerald like running over the shoulder, but yeah, probably would look towards O'Donoghue on O'Donnell. I think that probably is the one stylistically. I think that makes the most sense because he does have the physicality. I don't think Galan completely roasted him. I do think Galan got the better of him probably on more than one occasion, and I think in particular, obviously the chance which Pat Collins saved, and everything that sort of went around that. I think that could have been a big moment where Galan could have got a goal off him. So maybe that could have changed the fortunes ever so slightly. But yeah, I think O'Donoghue probably would arguably be the best man to go on Shane O'Donnell.
And who do you see, just before we get into a prediction, who do you think will go on Tony Kelly? It's a big one for the Cork half-back line in more ways than one. He started at 10 against Kilkenny, so that would mean Mark Coleman. Mark Coleman's more of an attacking player, so and Tim O'Mahony on the other side, coincidentally, is more of an attacking player as well. So who would you put on Tony Kelly? Would it be Niall O'Leary?
Yeah, maybe. It could also be Mark Coleman. I mean, who do you think the Downies are going on?
Judging by the set, I think Rob Downey will take Mark Rogers. I think Rob Downey will take him. Owen Downey, possibly Aidan McCarthy. But we'll have to see. Like, look at the match programme, it's Owen Downey and Shane O'Donnell. But personally, I think Shane O'Donnell and Sean O'Donoghue is a perfect matchup. So that would drift Owen Downey onto Aidan McCarthy. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one. I feel the more I talk about it, the more I think, could it be Niall O'Leary on Tony Kelly? Could it be a Mikey Butler situation?
It could be as well. And you know what I was just thinking there is like Owen Downey, he was so good under the high ball against Limerick. Maybe he'd be a great man to put on Shane O'Donnell, just because the fact that the amount of times Clare look for Shane O'Donnell, they get that ball into him as soon as possible. Maybe someone like Owen Downey actually might be the perfect man on O'Donnell. And that maybe frees up O'Donoghue to pick up a Tony Kelly or maybe even an Aidan McCarthy. But yeah, I think there's so much, like, you could debate these matchups all day long. And I think like every turn of grass, every blade of grass is going to be so huge come Sunday.
Another few comments coming in here. Rob Downey or Mark Coleman. I think that's referring to Tony Kelly. And some people are thinking Mark Coleman. Yeah.
I think Rob Downey, could be a good shout as well. Yeah, because he played. Did he play? No, he didn't play at 6 the last day. I don't think, did he?
Rob Downey, he did. Yeah, 6. So it's going to be very interesting. Just a comment on Sean O'Donoghue from Soccer with Tim here. Being very sticky doesn't mean he's suited for O'Donnell. He got so riled up in the round robin game, then got himself sent off for a city challenge on Shane. My point nearly on O'Donoghue is, like, O'Donoghue is a kind of the defender that would give it to the forward. Just go in his face for the whole game. He's not like a glitz and a glamour defender looking for scores. He's a guy that if he's put on someone, he will try to make their life as difficult as possible on the hurling field. So that's my thinking on O'Donoghue going on O'Donnell. Most people might disagree with that, but we'll have to see what happens on Sunday. Downey with a Tony Kelly in 22 match, if I'm correct. If he was, Rob Downey could be a good matchup for Tony Kelly. We'll have to see what happens there. I reckon a couple of red cards on Sunday. Watch the space. We'll have to see.
Could happen. Hopefully not, to be honest. Hopefully not, but could happen.
And last comment in here before our big prediction stockroom team. It's like this, lads. There won't be too many matchups that stay the same all game. Lads will be swapping around the whole time, and that's probably the point as well. Definitely, and we will definitely keep an eye out on that as the game goes on. So 54 minutes we've talked about the matchups, the scores, the journey to the final, the stats, everything like that. And here we go. Prediction. Cork against Clare, All Ireland Senior Hurling Championship Final. Will Cork beat Clare for the 41st time in the championship, or will Clare win for the 17th time? Will Clare get their hands on Liam McCarthy for the first time since 2013, or will Cork do it for the first time since 2005? Who are you thinking, Aaron?
Yeah, it's so hard to predict, but I do think Cork are going to do it. I think they're going to do it. I think the way they the way they've turned the corner, the way they've obviously beaten Limerick, the energy, the pace at which they play with as well, I think is absolutely frightening. Like, nobody's been able to deal with it. I think Limerick done their best to stay in the game really in the second half and nearly made something out of it. I just don't see how Clare can live with that, to be honest with you, especially in Croke Park. And look, Clare, to be fair, especially with their big players, and obviously, as we said, with Cork's vulnerability in and around defence and everything else, Clare will punish Cork, there's no doubt about it, and it will be a very, very close game. But I just think Cork are going to do it. I think they not necessarily have their name on the trophy, but they've been coming all year long, and I think this is the final step. And I think after all they've done this year, it would be, like there's no doubt. I think a lot of Cork fans and Cork in general would be left with egg on their face if they didn't win this after what they've done so far this year. It wouldn't surprise me if Clare won. I don't think there'd be much in it. But Cork have won a lot of big games this year by 2 points, coincidentally, and I think this one is also going to be 2 points.
It's such a tough one to call. It really is. I would say, I think it's going to be Cork by about a point. It's going to be a point either way. It might be 2 points again. It's going to be so difficult to call. I just feel like to beat Limerick twice this year, I feel like if Cork do not get the job done this weekend, the players will regret it in more ways than one. I just feel like this is the season where it is written on the Liam McCarthy Cup that Cork bring it back home to Leeside. I just feel like Cork will get over the line in this one. Clare will obviously contribute to an amazing final, I'm sure. It'll be end to end. It'll be clash of the ash. It'll be everything like that. I just feel like Cork will get over the line by a point. Look, I'm not too biased. Like, I remember Dan Casey early on the week at the GAR said to Seamus that Cork would win by 7. I'm like there's being hopeful and there's being hopeful. Look, I just feel like it's going to be a point. It's going to be a point either way. I just feel like Cork will be the team to nick it, but it's going to be so close to call. We'll have to see. B saying an interesting prediction here. Dermot Ryan, hero score to win it.
There you go. You can clip that up if it happens.
Exactly. We'll have to see if it does happen. So yeah, that is the hurling final preview and all that. But before we leave you, we'll talk about the LGFA Semi Finals this weekend. So that is Cork against Galway and Armagh against Kerry. Both games at Tullamore live in TG Car. We'll start off with Cork against Galway on Saturday evening at 5 p.m. live in TG Car. Cork going into this semi-final on the back of beating Waterford in the All Ireland quarter-final, and Galway after that amazing extra time win over Dublin. Either scores and journey to the final here from a Cork and Galway point of view. Starting off with Cork, their journey to the final started off at Munster beating Waterford. They beat Tipperary but lost to Kerry twice. Hammered Laois in the All Ireland series by 6-13 to 1-5. Beat Galway coincidentally 1-12 to 1-10, and then beat Waterford by 1-17 to 2-4 in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. They've averaged a score of 114 per game and conceded an average of 110. Looking at Cork scores before the game as well. Katie Quirk with 1 goal and 33 points. Hannah Looney with 3 goals and 1 point. Hannah Looney is the goal getter, it seems, in this campaign. Laura O'Mahony with 1-6. Ava McCall of 2 goals and 3 points. Emma Cleary with 8. Lydia McDonough with 8. Dara Coyley and Sive McGoldrick up there from a Cork point of view as well. Look at Galway's journey to the final. They beat Mayo in the Connacht final by 111 to 9 points. Lost to Cork in the All Ireland 110 to 112. Beat Laois 7 goals and 22 points to 1-5. And then that miraculous win over Dublin after extra time 3-7 to 112. They've averaged a score 3-12 per game and conceded an average of 1-9 per game. They've considerably less scores than Cork, but they have 2 players in particular that are really standing up to the metal Galway. Olivia Divley with 3 goals and 17 points. And Roisin Leonard there with 3-11. Ailva Davern up there as well. Aoife Rourke, the goal-scoring hero against Dublin, up there with 2-1 as well. Ailish Morrissey up there with 6 points. Leanne Cohen with 5. So, Aaron, how do you see this one going? It's an interesting one to call. Cork have beaten Galway twice already this year in the league. First of all, in the first day of the league campaign, and then the All-Ireland series in the group. But Galway, off the back of that incredible win over Dublin in Parnell Park, nonetheless. So, how do you see this one going? Could there be a shock at the cards again? And could Galway get over the line against Cork, who have, to be fair, they've done well to reconcile their season more than anything as well after relegation to Division 2. Coincidentally, both sides got relegated to Division 2 of the league, and now one of them is going to be in the final.
Yeah, it's kind of mad to think. I don't think many people would have predicted both of these two to get to a semi-final a couple of weeks ago. But I actually fancy Galway, to be honest with you, just after how they beat Dublin, how well they played, obviously, in that game, how they turned the corner, how they faced the adversity against the Dubs as well. I fancy them to do it. Like, I think there's very little between them. Like, as you said, 2 points earlier in the year, that game could have went either way. So I fancy Galway to get over the line.
Interesting. I'm going to go for the opposite. I'm all Cork this week. I'm going to go for Cork to win this game. I just feel like this is probably the game that Shane Vernon is aiming towards, and to get into the All Ireland final in this one, like, it's going to be tight to call. But even seeing the documentary, the IG documentary of Making It Happen, Cork LGFA had a flying the wall kind of documentary on YouTube, and it seems like Shane Vernon is saying the right things in the post-match interviews and in the dressing room as well. So I just feel like Cork have enough in them to get over the line, but wouldn't be shocked if Galway did it either. I just feel like Cork have a lot more scores than Galway do, and that should be enough to get over the line. We talked about the men's final last week, Armagh against Kerry, and coincidentally, the LGFA is the exact same in the semi-final. Armagh against Kerry in Tullamore on Saturday at 7:15 p.m. Could we see the same thing happen again? Armagh beating Kerry, we'll have to see, but look at their journeys to the final from both sides. Armagh beat Donegal after extra time, 17 points to 113. In the All-Ireland series, they beat Meath by a point, and then drew against Tipperary 10 points to 2-4, beat Mayo by 2-11 to 11 points. They've averaged a score of 113 per game and conceded an average of 111. And look at their scores: Eve Lavery with 11 points, Aoife McCoy with 3 goals and 2 points, Blahin Mackin up there with 1-5, Kelly Mallon with 7 points, Niamh Henderson with 6. Amy Mackin, they are missing her for the All-Ireland series. She scored 4 points in the goals to the final, but has been missing with an ACL injury ever since. So for Armagh to get to the All-Ireland semi-final without Amy Mackin is a brilliant achievement by Gregory McGonagall's team. Look at Kerry, their journey to the final. They beat Tipperary, Cork and Waterford to progress into the All-Ireland series as Munster champions. They drew with Donegal in Ballybuffet 9 points to 1-6, hammered Waterford by 4-13 to 9 points, and then beat Meath quite comprehensively, to be honest with you, 16 points to 8. They've averaged a score of 114 per game and conceded an average of 10 points. Shock horror, Louise Ní Bhurthairtí is not the Kerry top scorer this year. It is Daniel O'Leary with 1 goal and 28 points. Louise is second, though, with 2 goals and 15 points. Emma Deneen with 4 goals and 5. Niamh Carberry up there with 9. Hannah O'Donoghue with 2-3. Niamh Ní Crothúr with 6 points. Shiv Roche up there with 1-3. And Anna Galvin up there as well with 5 points. Kerry seem to be doing well in the championship, getting over the line, not necessarily putting spark on games, but they're getting over the line quite comprehensively. Do you see any way Armagh could pull what the men did last week against Kerry and win this game? It's going to be very difficult, obviously, without Amy Mackin in the side, but they have coped very well so far.
Yeah, I suppose in the spirit of this year's championship, like, it's definitely not impossible. And I think Armagh, how well Armagh have responded, obviously, since Amy Mackin's injury, and as you said, Blahin Mackin has been absolutely brilliant for Armagh, in fairness, but I can't see past Kerry. I think they will do it. I think they will get over the line. I think Emma Deneen's been in extraordinary form this year. She's been outstanding. Louise Ní Bhurthairtí has obviously been very good as well, as we very well know. Like, she's been the star player in the last couple of years. So yeah, to be honest, I couldn't see past Kerry. I don't think there's going to be a shock in this game, unfortunately. Look, it'd be great to see. It'd be great to see Armagh in both ladies and men's football, All Ireland finals. Like, what a story obviously that would be from an Armagh perspective, but I just can't see past Kerry. I think this is their opportunity now. This is their chance to go and end the drought, end the famine, and win the All Ireland. And I couldn't see them messing this one up.
It feels like a no or never sort of situation for Kerry. Dublin are out of it. Meath are out of it. There are players missing for the 3 other sides in this, like Galway. Galway probably have the full complement, to be fair, but Cork, like Dermot O'Sullivan, Ciara O'Sullivan, Roisin Phelan, and all them retiring. Armagh without Amy Mackin in the team. Kerry have a full complement more or less available to them. Louise Galva's missing this year, and Emma Costello is as well. But other than that, they are well set in terms of the team this year. So do you feel like if Kerry don't win it this year, will they ever win it?
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, I think if they were to lose in the semi-finals in this game versus Armagh, I think it could come back to haunt them, and I think it could be one of them things where the baggage and everything else, we saw this with other teams in the past, where if you don't take your opportunity when it comes, then it's very, very hard to get back there again. And look at the Mayo footballers as an example. 21, they beat Dublin. It opened up for them against Tyrone. Everyone felt they were going to do it. They lost the final, and they really haven't come anywhere near since. So I think these things can follow, like these things do follow you around. And I think Dublin will be back next year, no doubt about that. Meath might be back in the equation. Armagh might be, back up to full fitness, even stronger next year. So I think for Kerry, they have to get the job done, and they have to do it.
Yeah, I feel like Kerry will get over the line as well. But we could have a situation where Galway and Armagh reach the LGFA final, and that'll be a men and women double.
Could be, yeah.
How interesting will that be?
That'd be mad, yeah. Like it'd be great if they almost did it as a double header, wouldn't it?
That would be an idea. Why can't Croke Park do that?
Yeah, like I know maybe the argument is that Galway Armagh will sell out without the ladies football final, and maybe the ladies football final will still get a very good attendance, like 40,000-50,000. I don't really know what the attendance will be, so maybe there's an argument there that the GAA are probably just looking for more money. Like they'll probably get, the same people that pay their money to go to the All Ireland final will probably still pay their money to go to the ladies final. But I think as a fan and as full value as a spectacle, I think having both those two games on the same day would be absolutely brilliant. And having a ladies final with a full packed crowd, I think that'd be outstanding. But probably not going to happen.
Sure, it didn't happen last year, did it? Like Kerry and Dublin were the LGFA final last year and the men's final.
Yeah, it probably is too short as well, like a week as well, like before the semi-finals. They could have maybe organised it better, but yeah, it is what it is.
Definitely is, but that is the end of the preview for the LGFA. Just before we go, a few other comments come in here. I have to bring these up. Stockgroup team saying, "Our stop, will you swear Clare just figured out hurling? We've been the team pushing Limerick for the last 3 years, don't forget." I don't think I said anything wrong there about Clare. I just feel like Cork will have enough to get over the line. So I don't know what that was about anyway. Beast is saying here, wasn't there a Cork lad O'Leary playing for Dublin Hurlers last year? There was Chris O'Leary from the Valley Rovers club, and he was playing for Lucan Sarces. Was it Aaron in Dublin?
Yeah, I think it was. Very good hurler. And Cork true and true, I suppose. But here he is playing in Dublin, like a lot of people.
Exactly. There's a lot of Cork people looking for jobs in Dublin, and it is great to see it, obviously. But that is the wrap on the All Ireland Senior Hurling Championship final preview. If you enjoyed, give it a like, subscribe to this channel as well, really helps us out, and review or obviously give us a rating on Spotify. Thanks to Aaron for coming on to the podcast today. Thanks to Capture Athletics for sponsoring tonight's show, and also next week for the football final preview. We'll see you then, and enjoy the hurling final at the weekend.